Good morning, everyone. It is March the 15th, and we are back in Deuteronomy chapter 10. If you remember, Deuteronomy is a repeat of the law. Moses is giving the law a second time. So he's got the Israelites, they're back to the edge of the promised land. So this is the second time that they're there. The first time they failed to go in. It cost them dearly 40 years of wandering around in the desert. Now, 40 years later, they're back at the edge. Moses is there. He's repeating the law, he's repeating the instructions, and is also reminding them of what happened. And so he's kind of giving them a history lesson. Okay, 40 years later, history lesson. Here's what you did. You made this golden calf, and I came down and broke the stone tablets and ground up that gold calf, put it in the water, made you drink it. It was just this major thing, and Moses is reminding them of the mistakes that they had made, the progress they had made, but the mistakes that they had made, and wants them to make sure that they don't repeat those mistakes again. And so now he's continuing with this history lesson in Deuteronomy chapter 10. And he says this: At that time, the Lord said to me, chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones. Also make a wooden ark, a sacred chest to store them in. Come up to me on the mountain, and I will write on the tablets the same words that were on the ones you smashed. Then place the tablets in the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood and cut 2 stone tablets like the first 2. Then I went up the mountain with the tablets in my hand. Once again, the Lord wrote the 10 Commandments on the tablets and gave them to me. They were the same words the Lord had spoken to you from the heart of the fire on the day you were assembled at the foot of the mountain. Then I turned, came down the mountain, and placed the tablets in the ark of the covenant which I had made, just as the Lord had commanded me. And the tablets are still there in the ark. The people of Israel set out from the wells of the people of Jachin and traveled to Moserah, where Aaron died and was buried. His son Eleazar ministered as high priest in his place. Then they journeyed to Gudgoda, and from there to Jotbathah, a land with many brooks and streams. At that time, the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the Lord's covenant and to stand before the Lord as his ministers and to pronounce blessings in his name. These are their duties to this day. That is why the Levites have no share of property or possessions of land among the other Israelite tribes. The Lord himself is their special possession, as the Lord your God told them. As for me, I stayed on the mountain in the Lord's presence for 40 days and nights, as I had done the first time. And once again the Lord listened to my pleas and agreed not to destroy you. Then the Lord said to me, Get up and resume the journey and lead the people to the land I swore to give to their ancestors, so they may take possession of it. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you? He requires only that you fear the Lord your God and live in a way that pleases him, and love him and serve him with all your heart and soul. That's a good one to underline. Verse 12. And you must always obey the Lord's commands and decrees that I'm giving you today for your own good. So I'd underline verse 13 too, because it has that additional and in there. And you must, right? Look, the highest heavens and the earth and everything in it all belong to the Lord your God. Yet the Lord chose your ancestors as the objects of his love, and he chose you, their descendants, above all other nations, as is evident today. Therefore, change your hearts and stop being stubborn. I underlined that. For the Lord your God is the God of gods and the Lord of lords. He is the great God, the mighty and awesome God, who shows no partiality and cannot be bribed. He ensures that orphans and widows receive justice. He shows love to the foreigners living among you and gives them food and clothing. So you too must show love to foreigners, for you yourselves were once foreigners in the land of Egypt. You must fear the Lord your God and worship him and cling to him. Your oaths must be in his name alone. He alone is your God, the only one who is worthy of your praise, the one who has done these mighty miracles that you have seen with your own eyes. When your ancestors went down into Egypt, there were only 70 of them, but now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars in the sky. You must love the Lord your God and obey all his requirements, decrees, regulations, and commands. Keep in mind that I'm not talking now to your children who have never experienced the discipline of the Lord your God or seen his greatness and his strong hand and powerful arm. They didn't see the miraculous signs and wonders he performed in Egypt against Pharaoh and all his land. They didn't see what the Lord did to the armies of Egypt and to their horses and chariots, how he drowned them in the Red Sea as they were chasing you. He destroyed them, and they have not recovered to this very day. Your children didn't see how the Lord cared for you in the wilderness until you arrived here. They didn't see what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, a descendant of Reuben, when the earth opened its mouth in the Israelite camp and swallowed them, along with their households and tents and every living thing that belonged to them. But you have seen the Lord perform all these mighty deeds with your own eyes. I underlined verse 7. So therefore, be careful to obey every command I am giving you today, so you may have strength to go in and take over the land you are about to enter. If you obey, remember the if then statements. If you obey, you will enjoy a long life in the land the Lord swore to give to your ancestors and to you, their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land you are about to enter and take over is not like the land of Egypt from which you came, where you planted your seed and made irrigation ditches with your foot as in a vegetable garden. Rather, the land you will soon take over is a land of hills and valleys with plenty of rain, a land that the Lord your God cares for. He watches over it through each season of the year. And if you carefully obey all the commands I am giving you today, and if you love the Lord your God and serve him with all your heart and soul, then he will send the rains in their proper seasons, the early and the late rains, so you can bring in your harvests of grain, new wine, and olive oil. He will give you lush pasture land for your livestock, and you yourselves will have all you want to eat. But be careful. Don't let your heart be deceived, so that you turn away from the Lord and serve and worship other gods. I underlined verse 16. If you do, the Lord's anger will burn against you. He will shut up the sky and hold back the rain, and the ground will fail to produce its harvest. Then you will quickly die in that good land the Lord has given you. So commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these words of mine. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Teach them to your children. Talk about them when you are at home and when you are on the road, when you are going to bed and when you are getting up. Write them on the doorposts of your houses and your gates, so that as long as the sky remains above the earth, you and your children may flourish in the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors. Be careful to obey all these commands I am giving you. Show love to the Lord your God by walking in his ways and holding tightly to him. Then the Lord will drive out all the nations ahead of you, though they are much greater and stronger than you, and you will take over their land. Wherever you set foot, that land will be yours. Your frontiers will stretch from the wilderness in the south of Lebanon in the north, and from the Euphrates River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you, for the Lord your God will cause the people to fear and dread you, as he promised, wherever you go in the whole land. Look, today I'm giving you the choice between a blessing and a curse. You will be blessed if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you today, but you will be cursed if you reject the commands of the Lord your God and turn away from him and worship gods you have not known before. When the Lord your God brings you into the land and helps you take possession of it, you must pronounce the blessings at Mount Gerizim and the curse at Mount Ebal. These two mountains are west of the Jordan River, in the land of the Canaanites who live in the Jordan Valley near the town of Gilgal, not far from the oaks of Morah. For you are about to cross the Jordan River to take over the land the Lord your God is giving you. When you take that land and are living in it, you must be careful to obey all the decrees and regulations I am giving you today. Deuteronomy chapter 12. These are the decrees and regulations you must be careful to obey when you live in the land the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. You must obey them as long as you live. When you drive out the nations that live there, you must destroy all the places where they worship their gods, high on the mountains, up in the hills, and under every green tree. Break down their altars and smash their sacred pillars. Burn their Asherah poles and cut down their carved idols. Completely erase the names of their gods. Do not worship the Lord your God in the way these pagan peoples worship their gods. Rather, you must seek the Lord your God at the place of worship he himself will choose from all among all the tribes, the place where his name will be honored. There you will bring your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, your sacred offerings, your offerings to fulfill a vow, your voluntary offerings, and your offerings of the firstborn animals of your herds and flocks. There you and your families will feast in the presence of the Lord your God, and you will rejoice in all you have accomplished because the Lord your God has blessed you. Your pattern of worship will change. Today, all of you are doing as you please, because you have not yet arrived at the place of rest, the land the Lord your God is giving you as your special possession. But you will soon cross the Jordan River and live in the land the Lord your God is giving you. And when he gives you rest from all your enemies and you're living safely in the land, you must bring everything I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, your sacred offerings, and your offerings to fulfill a vow, to the designated place of worship, the place the Lord your God chooses for his name to be honored. You must celebrate there in the presence of the Lord your God with your sons and daughters and all your servants. And remember to include the Levites who live in your towns, for they will receive no allotment of land among you. Be careful not to sacrifice your burnt offerings just anywhere you like. You may do so only at the place the Lord your Lord will choose within one of your tribal territories. Therefore, you must offer your burnt offerings and do everything I command you. But you may butcher your animals and eat their meat in any town whenever you want. You may freely eat the animals with which the Lord your God blesses you. All of you, whether ceremonially clean or unclean, may eat that meat, just as you now eat gazelle and deer. But you must not consume the blood. You must pour it out on the ground like water. But you may not eat your offerings in your hometown, neither the tithe or your grain and new wine and olive oil, nor the firstborn of your flocks and herds, nor any offering to fulfill a vow, nor your voluntary offerings, nor your sacred offerings. You must eat these in the presence of the Lord your God at the place he will choose. Eat them there with your children, your servants, and the Levites who live in your towns, celebrating in the presence of the Lord your God in all you do. And be very careful never to neglect the Levites as long as you live in your land. That's an interesting statement, isn't it? Is that take care of your spiritual leaders, is what he's saying. It's powerful. When the Lord your God expands your territory, as he has promised, and you have the urge to eat meat, you may freely eat meat whenever you want. It might happen that the designated place of worship, the place the Lord your God chooses for his name to be honored, is a long way from your home. If so, you may butcher any of the cattle, sheep, or goats the Lord has given you, and you may freely eat the meat in your hometown, as I have commanded you. Anyone, whether ceremonially clean or unclean, may eat that meat just as you do now with gazelle and deer. But never consume the blood, for the blood is the life, and you must not consume the life blood with the meat. Instead, pour out the blood on the ground like water. Do not consume the blood, so that all may go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what pleases the Lord. Take your sacred gifts and your offerings given to fulfill a vow to the place the Lord chooses. You must offer the meat and blood of your burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord your God. The blood of your other sacrifices must be poured out on the altar of the Lord your God, but you may eat the meat. Be careful to obey all my commands, so that all will go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is good and pleasing to the Lord your God. When the Lord your God goes ahead of you and destroys the nations, and you drive them out and live in their land, do not fall into the trap of following their customs and worshiping their gods. Now, that's another verse I think it's important to underline, that last part of verse 30. Do not fall into the trap of following their customs and worshiping their gods. Do not inquire about their gods, saying, how do these nations worship their gods? I want to follow their example. You must not worship the Lord your God the way the other nations worship their gods, for they perform for their gods every detestable act that the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters as sacrifices to their gods. So be careful to obey all the commands I give you. You must not add anything to them or subtract anything from them. Okay, so very clear instructions that God gives through Moses to the Israelite people. He's telling them, you're welcome to eat meat, to to dine as you normally would, but those things that are specifically earmarked for sacrifice, that needs to make sure that it is taken to the place of worship that God designates. The reason he's doing that, he does not want people kind of making up ad hoc their own sacrificial systems, doing it their own way, sacrificing under trees, up on high mountains, all of these things. God wants to keep them away from pagan worship, away from worshiping idols. And so God gives them a system of worship, a system of prayer, a system of offering sacrifices. And he says to them, make sure you don't even ask them how they did it. I don't want you even entertaining it. I want you to stay far away from it, because it will not go well for you. And God is so specific, right? We look at all the if-then statements that God states in here, and gives them clear instructions. Another thing I want to point out, I love this, what he says in verse 26 of chapter 11. He says, look, today I'm giving you, this is so powerful, right? I underlined this. I'm giving you the choice between a blessing and a curse. Boy, what would happen if we went through life just continuing to keep that reality in front of us? God has given us the choice. First of all, understand that God gives us a choice. We have free will, right? He always gives us a choice. So we can choose always between a blessing and a curse. Blessing, curse. We have to ask ourselves the question, in the way that we're going to behave, the way that we're going to live, what we choose to do, are we walking towards a blessing? Or are we walking towards a curse? Are we walking in obedience to God? Or are we walking in disobedience to God? Because obedience is a blessing, disobedience is a curse, always. Always. It leads to either walking in righteousness and the goodness that comes from following in God's ways, or it leads us away from the path and away from the blessing of God. And so it's such an incredible and important thing that we keep in front of us all the time. So this was a great section of scripture to read. I just love reading Deuteronomy. These important reminders, again, 10,000-foot view. God is trying to do something very special in these people. He's chosen them. It's incredible. In the New Testament, God says that we are a chosen people. He chooses us. And we also, just in the same way that God is giving these instructions through Moses with the Israelite people and saying, listen, I want you to live in the land, but do not live with these, don't allow yourself to be pulled away. Don't allow yourself to be pulled into, these into the nation and the culture in which you live. Don't allow yourself to be pulled away from God's design for living, and don't begin to kind of give in, because it's going to lead to destruction. And in the same way, boy, 10,000-foot view, same way God speaks this into the people of God, his people, he speaks it to us today. And he tells us, hey, get rid of all filth, get rid of all these things that are unholy. And that's what the New Testament says. He says that if anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation. The old is gone, all things become new. He tells us to get rid of all of those things that were a part of our old sinful nature and to walk in righteousness with him. And so he calls us to begin to live and to move in a different direction. And even in the New Testament, it gives us these choices, and those choices they lead to what? They lead to either a blessing or a curse. And the choice is up to us. Now, there are many people who, again, we can build these theological constructs around grace, and we like, wow, you get a get out of jail free card, you pray, you invite Christ into your life, and that's it, and nothing else matters. But that is the furthest thing from the truth. God is interested in not just delivering us from the consequences of sin, but he's wanting to deliver us from sin. Isn't that incredible? He wants to deliver us from sin and to lead us into righteousness, where by the way, when we walk in righteousness, that's where we find peace. That's where we find wholeness. That's where we find all of those incredible blessings that God gives us. The really the more important blessings are the internal blessings in our minds, in our spirits, in our hearts, and then we receive the blessings that are external as well. So important for us to understand that 10,000 foot view, that this isn't just a letter. This isn't just about them. It's about us and what God's calling us to do. Jesus himself said, I've come to give you life and to give it abundantly. And what that means is he wants to lead us into blessing and away from curse. So how about you? Are you living in a way that leads to blessing or to curse? And I think that's a great thing to be able to dissect, consider, pray over, talk to our friends, maybe talk to some other people in your small groups, and just consider those things today. Consider what God wants to do. He wants to lead you blessing. Maybe ask the question, what does the blessed life really look like? What does the cursed life look like? And remember, what's the pathway to it and the pathway away from it? What's the pathway away from the curses? What's the pathway away from the blessings? And consider those things today. All right, God bless you. Thanks so much for joining me. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great day.